How's everybody? There is two more panelists coming, but one of them is having trouble signing in. So I'm trying to figure it out, but she'll be here soon. Anyways, thank you, Teresa. Thank you for being here. And thank you for taking part on the Yoga Studies Institute. As many of you may know, probably some people are taking also the Yoga Studies Institute course. We are doing the Yoga Sutra chapter 4 these days with Keshe Michael, and it's very, very, very cool. And Teresa just taught a class on Lady Niguma series 2. So in a way, maybe while we wait for the other panelists, I would like to ask you, Teresa, if you could just tell us a little bit about this new release of the yoga suit of the Lady Niguma Yoga series 2. What do you think about it? Or I don't know, in general, why does it makes it different from level 1?
Yes, thank you so much, Juan, for inviting me. Are we having translation here too?
Yes.
Okay.
Now one of the other panelists just arrived, but you can tell us, Teresa, and I'll help the other panelists to turn their camera. Don't worry.
Okay. So actually in Lady Niguma 2, we are going deeper and deeper into the wisdom that we started in Lady Niguma 1. So here we will be working with the negative emotions that Geshe-la today talked a little bit about it. And we are working with the vayus, with the winds that he talked about today in the Yoga Sutra course. So the wonderful thing is that each negative emotion is associated to a wind, and as well is associated to a wisdom. So it's not just a depressing process of getting to know all the mental afflictions or negative emotions we have. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's that all these emotions can be transformed into wisdoms. And we do that with the help of 5 yogis that embody these wisdoms. So it's really a wonderful course. And
wow.
I invite you all to come. It will be released very soon.
Wow. So you were saying, how many winds are there in this new level 2, Lady Niguma? How many winds are you working with? 5 winds. Okay. And you somehow are saying that those 5 winds are connected to 5 yogis?
Yes.
Interesting, very interesting. And not only that, but they are also connected to 5 negative emotions, but also to 5 wisdoms.
Exactly. So there is the structure of the course is very similar as in Lady Niguma 1. Connie is giving our story time, and she's giving the stories of these 5 yogis that existed and how did they got their powers. So the story time is one of my favorite parts of the course. And then Earl is teaching mapping the inner body, but in a more advanced level. So one of the things he's teaching is how the different channels are formed in the womb and how they affect us. So yes, it's a very deep and very nice course. Sarah also knows it, and she did many of the beautiful charts we are using there.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Definitely sounds very interesting to check out. I want to introduce you to Sarah. She arrived just now, well, a few minutes ago, but many of you may know her if you are taking the Yoga Sutra. She is one of the hostess, and she's a very, very good singer. And she's also Earl's partner. So she's very involved. she runs the whole thing in the background. No, just kidding. But very welcome. Thank you for joining, Sarah. And she's like a very active member in the Three Jules in New York community. So it's very great to have friends from all over the place. Teresa, I think these days you're in Europe, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm in
Amazing.
Madrid.
Yeah, in Spain. She's originally from Argentina, and Sarah is originally from Kentucky, but she lives in New York. And we have one more friend that may join very soon. Let's see. Anyways, so today, this topic, I found it very, very interesting. It's about, maybe a few years ago, Geshe Michael was teaching. I mean, Yoga Studies Institute happened a few years ago. Then it went through a period of, like, I don't know, Geshe Michael likes to say it died for a while and then it was resurrected. But I found these beautiful teachings at the knowledge base. I really encourage everybody to, if you have time, if you have the chance to watch the actual classes, they are amazing. And many of these classes happen before even I start studying the Dharma. And for me, it's a great, great pleasure to watch classes like I never watched before because I was not around. So I do encourage everybody, if you have a chance, to check it out. You can find it at the knowledge base. But this class is called, he taught during YSI teachings, but the old YSI, he taught something called advices for yoga teachers. And he did that in like different events. This one happens to be part 3. And it is about maybe what's the real job of a yoga teacher. Like as a yoga teacher, I guess, let's talk about this. What will be the difference? And I would like to hear both of your opinion. What's the difference between being a yoga teacher and a real yoga teacher? And what are your thoughts about, in general, let's first start with that, like in general, your thoughts about this session and this subject. What will make us a real yoga teacher? Maybe now you want to start with Sarah?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, Juan. And again, thank you for inviting me here. It's really, really sweet to get to know more communities and to be a part of the Yoga Studies Institute production of such beautiful teachings. So I'm happy to be here. What makes a real yoga teacher? You know, I know for me, when I just hear yoga teacher, my mind first goes to someone who's going to tell me where to put my hands, where to put my feet, how to twist and stretch and get a little workout. That's my first impression of a yoga teacher. And I just want to say that I still think that's very, very good. Like having that skill to guide someone's body and take care of it is a positive thing, and it's important for the well-being of other people and ourselves. So that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of a yoga teacher. But then getting familiar with what you shared, Juan, of Geshe Michael's teachings on yoga from the first iteration of Yoga Studies Institute. And also just from being here and studying these past 2 weeks with such amazing yogis, people who I genuinely see as powerful yogis, powerful practitioners. And that includes Teresa. You get to talk to one of the real yogis today. I'm seeing there's another level to yoga, which includes knowing how to take care of our bodies. But it also involves knowing how to take care of other people's minds and bodies, learning how to be kind, and practicing the ideas of Ashtanga yoga, the 8 limbs, all of it together. And if we can do that, if we can ourselves practice these ideas, in many ways that makes us a real yogi. And then if on top of that, we know how to guide people's bodies through the physical asana, that's extra special. Yeah. So that's what came to mind for me. I don't know. The real yogi Teresa can probably share more too.
Well, it made me, I'm happy, Sarah, that you started, because the question was a little bit scary at first, like, whoa, that's such a big question. So you gave me time to think a little bit more. Thank you. So my answer would be, what makes a real yoga teacher? I would say, first of all, the student. Most of my dear teachers, I love with all my heart. I've met people that told me, what, do you like that teacher? I remember one of my main asana teachers, not Dharma teachers, that I still love a lot, and he taught me so much. And I met someone that once told me that man has vinegar as breakfast. That could resume how he saw my teacher. So I guess we make our teachers. So that's why for me, learning from Geshe Michael was, and all this community that we are all learning this system, we are so fortunate, because he gave us the clue to create whatever teacher we want. And I try to remember this when I don't like something of another person or another teacher. And there is a great book from Geshe Michael that it's called The Emptiness. I read it in Spanish, but it would be something like The Emptiness of the Teachers.
Mm.
No, The Emptiness of the Magic Teachers, or something like that. La magia de los maestros vacíos.
Sí. Sí.
And I'm sorry, that's my daughter. And actually, well, there he teaches that we create our teachers. So that would be my more dharmic answer. But yes, a lot of what Sarah said is so true. I think what Geshe Michael said in these videos is that a good teacher wants to catch what is the dream of their students and help them come true. And that is so beautiful. They are not trying to show off or make their teachers, just their students, just have a better body. And they are showing them like a more invisible world, magic world. And I had many students that just came and told me, I come to your class because I want to have this in the arms that you have, like the muscles. And they come from different reasons, but the thing is how they go out of the class with what is that you gave them. It doesn't matter why they came. And they are your creation too, and you have something. You have to deal with this, not pride, because it's awful to say pride, but to think that you have something to give them. And what I usually do is I try to embody the teachers I love, because if not, I always think I'm not enough. That there is like people like many people that know the Yoga Sutras and recite them and do better yoga poses than me. And you're always thinking, well, but I'm not enough to teach. But if you embody like, well, let Geshe Michael talk through me, or let my yoga teacher teach through me. So that's what I was thinking about.
Thank you, Teresa. And actually, I find it very interesting because, yeah, somehow this particular talk, one of the very first things Geshe Michael says there is he asks the question, right? He does the question like what's your job as a yoga teacher? And then he said, like, your job is not really teaching them asanas or exercise. Your real job is to fulfill the dreams of your students. And then he does say, you have to become a dream filler or a dream fulfiller or something like that. And I find that idea very, very beautiful. Like, as a yoga teacher, the real job is to make your students' dreams come true. Now, number one, for me, this immediately breaks my conventional idea of what yoga is. Because yes, I think there is like a general idea. Everybody, if you say, hey, do you want to go to yoga class? I think the very first thing we think is that, okay, yeah, we're going to do exercise, postures, asanas. But in a way, as we have been seeing in these Yoga Sutra studies, exercises and asanas are only one of the 8 limbs. It's like a small part. Even in the Yoga Sutras, there are, how many Errol say that? I think like 8 verses, 3 verses on asana. So in a way, there are so many more practices that are technically yoga as well. We are doing yoga every time we do our yamas, our niyamas. Every time, I think if with sense of awareness and consciousness, we take care of our posture, we are doing yoga. The way we walk, the way we breathe, the way we sit down to work in the computer, and then our thoughts as well. How kind are we? How patient are we? How often do we think about the pen? All these things are part of yoga, not only the asana. And then Geshe Michael does mention, okay, I guess this is the next question. Let's say our job as yoga teachers will be fulfill our students' dream. And then I'm gonna say something interesting. You know, I like this thing about the traditional way of debating, because during the debate, every single little word you say or you don't say, it makes a difference. And at the end of this thought, Geshe Michael phrases this goal of fulfilling other people's dream in a very interesting way. But I'm gonna wait a little bit before I share that with you. But let's say the question will be, in your opinion, how can we help them to fulfill our dreams? What comes to your mind? Okay, like, okay, you say, okay, I'm gonna help people to fulfill their dreams. How do we start? What do you think? How will you help somebody to fulfill their dreams?
The first word that comes to my mind is being very respectful, because not all people want to share their inner, their inner emotions or dreams with you. And sometimes having someone like very pushy or making a very private question in a not well built relationship yet could do like the opposite. So I think that Geshe Michael is talking, what I understand is talking when you are having a really already like close relationship between a student and a teacher. So my first advice would be, first try to make them happy. Try to make them be aware of their own body, that is beautiful as it is, and it's sacred, and it's very intelligent, and sometimes it gets hurt because it is telling you something, or sometimes it gets with more like fatter because it's telling you some things too. So to love their body, respect them, respect the body, and slowly try to build that relationship where you can try to smell what their dreams are, and build the environment for them to feel safe to share it with you. Or maybe they won't share it, but you can also, I think the more skillful teacher, like as I know Geshe Michael, he gives you the answer even if you haven't yet made him personally the question. So that is like, well, but I wouldn't advise teachers, well, third time a student comes, well, what is your dream?
Yeah.
Not, it doesn't work like that.
What did you think, Sarah?
Yeah, it was just agreeing with everything you said, Teresa. I love the idea of creating an environment where you can connect more deeply with your students. And as a student myself, I have really appreciated that. And when I think of how to help students make their dreams come true, a big thing that came to mind for me was teaching them the process of how that works. Finding ways to share the wisdom of seeds and ultimate reality, which of the best yoga teachers I've had, they know how to weave that into what seems at first like a regular asana class. So that's probably what I would add to what Teresa said, is to share the understanding of how dreams are created in the first place, which has so much to do with unraveling the knots and tension in our body, and noticing our thoughts and shifting the way that we think about others, about every part of our world, and about ourselves. And in doing those two things, I am sure for me that it has allowed me to create my dreams. And so I would want to share the same technology that's helped me with my students.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much. Um,
And also hi to Anjali. I met you 2 weeks ago or last week. It's great to see you.
yeah. Let me introduce. She's Anjali Bigna. She has been studying many years. She was around when the first Yoga Studies Institute, YSI, was around. Probably you were at that class, and when Geshe Michael taught the advices for yoga teachers. So I'm very glad that you're here. Welcome. She's also a very good singer and a very good yoga teacher. So today we have great yoga teachers with us. What's your general take, Anjali, on how to help the students to fulfill their dreams? Like maybe what's the best thing you can do as a yoga teacher to be a good yoga teacher, to help your students to fulfill their dreams?
Can you hear me? Excellent. Okay. Yay. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. It's so nice to be in this such great company of such lovely people and all that are here attending. Thank you for being here. And I think that this particular question just like brought up this very common but kind of semi overlooked at times at this particular teaching on bodhicitta that the Geshe-la has taught. And it's a very unconventional way that bodhicitta is shared, but it makes so much sense with regards to the practical application. And that is, you practice these things as a student, and then you, as you get your own results, you become an example. And that is really, I think, the best, in my opinion. It's just sort of like complementing all that has been said here by both Sarah and Teresa and you, Hasso, Juan Hasso, is that, you know, we're implementing these things ourselves. You know, we are actually practicing what we're preaching and working on, you know, the essence of our own minds and hearts, and working on these things so deeply within our own personal practice that we can then step into, you know, being an example of what it is that we're sharing with others. And even if we're not getting perfect results, like, I think that there's something about, like, when, you know, even if a quote unquote teacher has some apparent, you know, failures, like, you know, like they had a situation where it sort of went sideways and, you know, oh, well, you know, it's not working or la la la. It doesn't mean we give up. We keep going, we keep trying, we keep stepping into that. We keep opening up to compassion and empathy for ourselves and for the path, because it's unfolding in a particular way. And we, you know, we don't want to be the emperor wearing the new clothes thinking we got it all together, you know, but we are practicing the the best of our ability, the sutras of Yoga Patanjali, or of Patanjali, and doing our asana practice and meditating, and, you know, and doing the service and kindness towards others. And so I think, like, often, you know, we've heard just like taking the teachings and putting them to practice and becoming the example is one of the best ways to really be of support to the student, give faith, give some hope in that way, and that they go, oh yeah, I can do that too. And I guess the last thing I'll share about that is that a great Lama was asked at one point by a parent, what can I do to get my kids to do what I want them to do? You know, what do I have to say? And the Lama said, just be an example. Just, they do what you do. They don't do what you say. So it's better to just be a living example. And I just think that's the same with, you know, like a student-teacher relationship, is to be, you know, you know, it's not like you're like perfect or your role model, but you still make mistakes, but you are maybe a little further along, and you have some you know, results from that. So that's kind of what I feel about that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. And actually, I find very interesting what all of you say. I think it connects in one point. Is this thing about, this is my take, but also Geshe Michael says that in the class. Yes, the best way to help someone or to teach them is to be a good example. Otherwise, people don't listen to you. I find this very interesting. I think people only listen to you when they somehow have either appreciation or admiration for you, something like that. And that's another thing Geshe Michael mentions at the beginning. He says, he does mention like admiration based on just because you're famous or you're beautiful or something like that is not very deep, is not very lasting. It's not really, it doesn't make you ultimately happy. You know, it's like a very hollow, you say in English thing. But he does mention, the way I understood this is like the real admiration comes from friendship or like connection, like deep like a relationship, a real relationship. When it's something like Teresa was saying, maybe at the very beginning they don't trust you yet to tell you their deepest dream or their biggest problem, right? But I'm sure basically all of us, we have had the blessing to have great friendships in our lives. And it's like these people that you feel you can tell them whatever, no matter how bad it is, no matter how good it is, you can just tell them and be totally honest about it. And I have find that these kind of relationships, like I really develop deep appreciation for these kind of people. And my heart is somehow open to whatever they have to say. So I think in a way, it's true. Becoming a good example will somehow allow as well. Well, I think it's two parts. Becoming a good example will allow maybe this part of admiration or credibility, let's say. But also, it's funny because also Geshe Michael mentions you have to be willing to connect with them. You have to ask them at some point, you have to ask them or to wanna, hey, what's your dream? Because sometimes it happens as well. Like people want to tell you things and you are not interested. And then I'm not saying it's good, but it has happened to me. Like people want to talk and you're thinking in other things and you're not paying attention to them. And I think just paying attention to them and really caring for them, it's a great skill and a great quality of a teacher, of anybody really. Like it's part of having a good heart to actually care. What do they have to say? What do they need? What's their world, their life like? So I think everything starts connecting. And now Anjali was talking about bodhicitta, and I really love that she brought that up because I would like to take the conversation in that way next. I will add as well, of course, I think you have to agree with me. In order to teach somebody something, we have to learn it first. And we have, as again, you have to become a good example, because it's like if a kid comes and, hey, can you teach me Tibetan? If I don't know Tibetan, how am I going to teach them, right? Maybe I can help them a little bit, like maybe do this, do that, try meeting this person. But, you know, the general idea is like, how are we going to help others to fulfill their dreams if we haven't learned to fulfill our own dreams? But this idea of bodhicitta plays a very important role here, because it's really about the motivation. It's not only about, I want to fulfill my own dreams, but why, or what's going to happen once I learn to fulfill my own dreams. Am I just going to be there enjoying like the new apartment Geshe has been using for an example, and my beautiful relationships, physical great health? Yes, that's great. But also I'm going to be able to teach others. So what do you think? Okay, let's take it this way. How can we fulfill our own dreams? What will be the technique? What would you recommend somebody? Let's say a person came to your yoga class and you managed to build this trust, you managed to develop this true care for their own success. Now, what could you tell them? to do in order to fulfill their dreams? Maybe now we can start with you, Sarah.
What would I tell them?
Like, hey, Sarah, I want to be rich. I want a new apartment. I want a partner. Like, that's my dream. And then?
Yeah, for sure. I will share one of the very first lessons I got when I walked into this flavor of teachings. The Three Jewels is a meditation and a yoga studio, and they share this particular types of teachings. And I, of course, went for all of those reasons. One, like, my job is not so good pay. I'm always single. Never have a good partner, the whole thing. But as Teresa was saying, I didn't know anyone, so I'm not just gonna walk in there and be like, hey, my life sucks. I'm here for you to make it better for me, you know? And one of the ways my teachers got me to fulfill my dreams is that they put me to work. They set me up to do service. Yeah. They said, hey, why don't you help us set up the room before class? And I just thought they were so beautiful and so cool. I was like, oh, sure, I can lay out some mats. And there was already a little bit of a culture in the studio to bring gifts. That sounds weird. It wasn't like gifts, but to bring like flowers or bring some snacks for after class. And they tricked me into taking care of the other practitioners, the other yogis in the studio. And they said, hey, if you want to hang out with us, we get together and plan these trips to Nepal, and we go and we help the people there. So it's not a very straightforward answer I'm giving you on.
No, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, they didn't say, oh, here's what you need to do to have your dreams come true. But in retrospect, as I look back at what they were really doing, because they're real yoga teachers, they were tricking me into taking care of others. Oh, can you still hear me? They were luring me into being kind. Like, and that magnet towards bodhicitta, taking care of others, and taking care of the people around me made my heart available to understand the deeper philosophy of yoga. So that's one way. Just trick your students.
That's so cool, so beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I really like that. And what will be your take, Teresa? How you will, okay, again, you have somebody who already trusts you, is there, keeps coming to classes, and they're like, Teresa, I have many dreams. What can I do? What will you tell them? Or what will be your approach to, okay, let's do this?
Well, what first comes to my mind is what I usually do. I trust a lot in myself, my intuition on what I feel that student is needing. And I think we all have this. It's just that we have to be more trusting more our, it's not intuition, perhaps it's too big word, but those feelings that you get of, if I would be free of concepts, what would I would answer? And usually there is a lot of knowledge in that first answer that comes to your heart. So I would guess that for each student, the answer would be different. There are, for example, there are many of my students that were very Catholic, so I wouldn't talk to them directly about karma or that this comes from a Buddhist perspective. I think a teacher has to have a very skillful means to see which is the approach that student needs. So that would be my first answer. Like Sarah said, they were very skillful with her. And maybe some other person, the first time that got inside 3 jewels, they gave her or him a Buddhist book and it worked out okay. So I would say that a teacher, if you're doing your practice and you are really trying and you have a really pure intention in your heart as a teacher, then you have to trust this voice that, like in the Catherine book, this little girl that hears that voice that talks inside her. I think we all have that, and we start losing it as when we become older. So yes, and usually also share before about me, about my suffering, about the things that didn't work out for me. Usually when I think that when one opens, it gives a space to the other one to open too, because they see you as a human, and usually the people that approach to you with a smile and they had very, very dark moments, they are the really teachers, that they can smile even after having those trouble. So I guess if we are in this path, we had them, so sharing them and not being shy and not trying to be the perfect teacher with no problems or just doing perfect poses, it really builds the ambient for knowing what to say to a student.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you so much. There is an idea I really like about different students may need different ways. Like you say, maybe if you have a very Catholic or Christian tradition person, then you adjust how you're gonna deliver, and you are sensitive to their needs, to their this thing of their crystal lake. But other people, maybe what they need is a very hardcore Buddhist teaching at the very first day with a book on logic or something. And for them, it may work. So I think it's a great also skill of a teacher to pay attention. And I really like what you say. If you have a good motivation, if you have a good heart, if you got a good practice, that may help you to be more accurate for sure in your lecture of what could benefit them. I really, really like that. There are a few questions in the chat. I think we can use them as well to move to the next subject. But of course, if you want to say something, Anjali, related to this on how you will, let's say, take your first steps in order to help the student to fulfill their dreams, go ahead. Or if you rather moving, or both, either you rather to say, there is a question that says, as a yoga teacher, how do you know when you are teaching successfully, when your yoga class was successful? I have taught a few yoga classes, and it's true, many times after the yoga class, I wonder, like, did I do a good class or not? And many times it has happened that I thought it wasn't that good, and then people tell you, oh, the class was amazing, thanks so much. So there is a question in the chat, if you guys want to address that, is how to know when you taught a good class. And also you can talk about the first steps you will take on helping students to achieve their dreams. Here you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I great question. It's I just want to start by saying that what Hasso said about needing to really want to work on ourselves, free ourselves, want to improve ourselves is really the beginning of the journey, really. You know, it's like before we can get to bodhicitta, you know, the wish to liberate ourselves for the sake of others, we have to want to liberate ourselves, you know. And so getting, you know, moving from the small vehicle Hinayana to the big vehicle Mahayana is a big leap for some people. And so a lot of people come to yoga just wanting to feel better. They don't come to it because I want to free everyone else, because it's too overwhelming. It's not, and we have to cultivate that and expand that idea that that, you know, I'm also, you are equally deserving of freedom, but like how can, and to create a relationship of how can I bridge that gap between me and you, self and other. We just covered this in the Yoga Sutra class today with Geshe-la, and it was just so beautiful, you know, this idea of you know, what is the clear light? Now, I'm not going to get into all that, but I really wanted to share something about this, that meeting someone where they're at, you know, and using our, you know, skill set and intuition and all the things that you shared here, each of us shared here so far, is that, you know, to recognize where somebody is, it's part of, you know, in a way, the responsibility of the teacher, not to overwhelm them, not to, so the skillful means of just like, you know, what Sarah's saying, like kind of tricking someone into taking care of someone else, which is the heartbeat of the teachings of the Yoga Sutra. And it's so beautiful. But like, for instance, if somebody comes to you super depressed, the last thing they're thinking about is taking care of somebody else. So there, it has to even be more skillful means, or someone who is dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder and just trying to get on the page with their nervous system. And I've been there. So I really, you know, part of the reason I came to yoga was because I was depressed and I had a hard time and I needed help, you know, and I found a teacher that slowly brought me along in this small way. And it was based on service. You know, she's like, oh, do this and do this. Just exactly what Sarah said. It's such a beautiful thing. It's a tradition in the yogic tradition to guide a student that way. And working as a therapeutic wellness mentor, where I have worked with people in acute stages of, you know, recovery from addiction, PTSD, depression, all the way up to somebody who's ready to go deeper, you know, and everything in between. That is something of what, you know, cultivating ourselves and our own wish to help others will help translate to the people, and the range of different capacities that we might be meeting up with. And again, and one of the things that I love that Geshe-la said today is, if you don't know, if you're not sure, if the teacher gets to a point where we just really are not sure how to help someone, then refer or ask your own mentor for help. And that really, I think, is a part of the humility of being a teacher, is that we don't have all the answers. We are also cultivating. And I think that's really important. And there's sort of this thing, last thing is like, well, how do I know I taught a really good yoga class? Well, let's go back to the fact that in your heart, if your motivation is kind and pure, and you did your best, and you're able to self-reflect on your own personal mistakes, maybe, you know, cued wrong or whatever, you know, that you can, at the end of the day, self-reflect and feel you did the best job that you could. and to really, perhaps have a prayer in your heart that the seeds are there, that there is a benefit, that student and teacher will, that mutual exchange will present a benefit to that student, because you know that when it's one class and there's many different experiences of that class, and it's not to say that, oh, I don't take responsibility for your projection. I mean, yes, I can't say that I can have any control over what you experience, but I can hold the space to recognize my role, and to self-reflect, and to see. And oftentimes in certain cases, it's like you can think, well, that person incrementally will be evolving and changing and having their own experiences of success, which in a way, some of them might be perceivable to the teacher, but some of them it's imperceivable, and you just know that. So the seed was like an unstoppable seed in their heart that's planted, and how they are working from the inside of themselves. So that's one thing. Those are my thoughts about those questions.
No, thank you so much. Amazing, amazing. I'm really enjoying this session. So, okay,
sorry, Juan.
please,
They are
please.
asking us to talk slower because they are translating. I just
Okay.
read that.
Okay, let's keep that in mind. Simultaneous translators, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And yeah, we'll speak a little slower. So, okay, I see we still have like 5 minutes. Maybe we have just one last round for things. I want to also use the time to let you know, everybody, that now these episodes or sessions, we record them, we make them available in YouTube, and now also we make them available in Spotify. We have it's like almost like a radio station. You can hear these things, and Spotify, Mixed Notes Reading Club, you can find the thing over there, just for you to know. Very cool. Okay, so let's do a last round on the questions. So what I can say, I'm gonna take this one, and then I ask you guys for the other one. One, it says, to impart, I guess one person is asking if there is like a way to give an example on how you will talk about a subject during your asana practice. So what I used to do when I was teaching yoga in Mexico, it's like maybe choosing one theme, as you write there, like, let's say, like, okay, like, I don't know, maybe at the beginning of the class, or maybe also during a certain posture. I usually like people to have also quiet moments during the yoga asana practice. Sometimes I just like explain like a certain thing, like, okay, we're gonna do sun salutation, follow me the first 1 or 2 rounds, and then keep going at your own pace. And then I lead the person do their own thing for a little bit. I find it useful because I think it's a chance to go deeper in what's going on with you. How are you breathing? How are you moving? How you're feeling, etc. And maybe during those times when they don't need that much of an instruction, I can talk about one subject. If today's class we're gonna dedicate that, we're gonna think about the yamas, or if that's too big, maybe like about one very specific one, right? Or you can say like, I don't know, today we're gonna talk about this concept of being satisfied with what we have, or being grateful. And then over and over, you can bring this idea back to the class. I also really like to talk about, when they are doing shavasana, I really like doing a coffee meditation. It's a great time to feel happy about the good things you're doing for other people. And yeah, finding small moments, gaps when you can talk about things. Ideally, it would be great if you can talk about how seeds create a reality. But I think it's very important also to teach basically about the pen, because otherwise, if you only teach about seeds, I think you are not really talking about why does this thing about seeds actually work. So you have to somehow prove things are empty first, and then that's why seeds work. So I think it's very important, I will say, as a teacher, learn the pen and learn the 4 steps. Very, very important tools in order to help the students. And maybe for you, Teresa and Angeli, I don't know what happened with Sarah. Maybe the internet failed or something, or she had to go, who knows. But last thing, maybe somebody's asking here in the chat. They say they want to be a yoga teacher. Let's say they want to be a yoga teacher, but they notice that there are so many yoga teachers and many ways, many different traditions and lineages of yoga. I guess the way that I will interpret this question is, what makes YSI better than other traditions? I don't know if better, but what makes it special? Why is the signature that as a YSI teacher, we're always going to try to incorporate in our teachers? And yeah, why will any studio will actually want to have a YSI teacher? What's your take on that? Teresa?
Okay, I wouldn't say a YSI teacher. I think the first question was the more general, that you see a lot of yoga teachers and perhaps that you lose confidence that you will achieve your goal because there are so many teachers. But I would say, do not think that because there are many teachers, because that kind of thinking is like thinking of me and you separate, the other yoga teachers and me, and also more like thinking they are my competitors. So I would just from this first thought, take that route out and make a new way of thinking about there are so many yoga teachers, because it has like some kind of tricky, mistaken view that if there are so many teachers, I won't get students. And that is not correct. So what I usually did is I knew in my heart that yoga was so good for me that I wanted students to, if they came just for one class, go out of my class knowing that there is a kind or a type of yoga that they will like. So let's say I get a new student, I would tell them, okay, if you don't come back, if you don't like my class, it's totally okay. This is like food. There are so many tastes. You don't like Mexican food, but you might like Italian. So please do not get into your car and tell, well, yoga, it's not for me. Just go to another teacher. Go as many teachers as you have to go until you find the one that it's good for you. And in that way of thinking, there is such a joy in knowing there are so many teachers, instead of thinking I won't get my students because there are so many. So that was what I would advise, to switch the mind.
Thank you, Teresa. I just got a cookie from a very nice gentleman. I do agree, and Geshe Michael also teaches that, right? Like teachers are like pants, he say. So different teachers will fit different students. And the only thing that I don't understand is how can someone not may like Mexican food? That'll be very weird. Just joking.
It's the only thing that it's not empty.
Yeah, that'll be difficult to find. No, thank you so much. And somebody was asking about the Spotify. I'm just gonna share the screen so you can see how to look at it. But I would like to also hear from you, Anjali, and from Sarah about this question on. Well, I guess the way that I interpreted is like what makes a YSI teacher special. And I guess I will take it to this thing that guys were having with the Navanga thing. But what do you think? What do you think? Or you can also take the approach that Teresa took about focusing on why do you see so many other yoga tradition and yoga teachers, and that'll be great too. I mean, that can be a good thing. And in the meantime, I share the Spotify. So what do you think now, Anjali? Here.
Yay. Well, you have to mute yourself, I think.
I have to mute myself.
Yeah, because we're in the same room. Yeah, so this very dear to my heart, this subject, because I think in the first Yoga Sutra, when we first kind of resurrected YSI from its dormant state and started meeting during the pandemic to put together the first course for this beautiful course of study of the Yoga Sutra. I did a trilogy presentation on Ishvara Pranidhanadvad, which one of the sections related to this very subject, and it's really like the quality of the teacher, the power of the teacher to help the student has a lot to do with what qualities you're looking for in a teacher and where you are at in your personal evolution to evolve on your yogic path. So you start with, probably most of us have started with asana. We just said, okay, I want to start with asana. And right now there's like a gazillion wonderfully qualified asana teachers, and it's fantastic. And I think that, it's all valid. All of the people who have trained in different traditions, in different styles, in different schools, have learned asana and a lot of things about the practices, the Kriya Yoga practices, so well that you really can find a qualified teacher. But again, teachers fit you like a glove. So I love what Teresa said, if I'm not your teacher, I'm not going to take it personally. Go find your perfect teacher that fits you like a glove. And then there's another type of teacher where you not just want to learn the asanas, but you want to learn a little bit more about how to evolve yourself as a person, evolve on the spiritual path. And that's a whole different level of teacher, which relates to learning the meaning of yoga, not just the mechanics of it, but the deep meaning of yoga. And I think that's what really establishes YSI apart from others. Now, not saying other traditions and other teachers are not teaching specific things to help you evolve your yoga practice and your own personal development. But the unique angle, I believe, of Yoga Studies Institute are such really particular translations that are incredibly of the ancient classics that were created by these ancient masters through a lineage that is long, and it is unbroken, and it is pure, and it's being translated so well and taught so well that we can understand it and practically apply it in our daily practice. This has an incredible power to accelerate the evolution of the student. And I know from personal experience that without that, I would have never taken the leaps and bounds in my own personal evolution had I not learned the deep meaning of yoga in this authentic way, in such a very short period of time, you know, and still have so much to learn. But that would be my kind of angle in answering this question about what makes YSI a distinguished presentation of these teachings, both in the asana and the deeper meaning, you know, the Kriya yogas and the physical practices, and then the deeper meaning, you know, and what it propels us to do in terms of service and like cultivating through understanding the meaning of yoga. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we are actually 7 minutes over. If anybody needs to leave, please feel free to leave. Don't let me take your time, please. So yeah, I don't know if you, Sarah, want to add or close with anything regards this.
I am in 100% agreement with what was already said. Yeah, so
Perfect.
beautiful. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Teresa, for coming all the way from Europe. Thank you, Anjali, for coming all the way from Sedona. And Sarah from New York. Thank you for coming. It has been a very, very, really great 2 weeks of a program. I'm glad you all, the attendees, also got to come. If you want to support these kind of programs, please consider donating for Diamond Cutter Classics. What they do is like they really translate the material. And with that knowledge, with that content, many more programs like YSI programs or ACI programs and more programs can be shared with us. So if you do want to support this noble cause, I'm gonna leave a link in the chat. If you ever happen to have like a couple extra $1,000 or something, you don't know what to do, this is a great cause and many people will get benefits from it. And now whatever you can, even $1 is great, 5, whatever, 10, whatever you can, it's very, very appreciated. And we all help as a community to keep this wisdom alive. So thank you so much. We'll see sometime soon. Remember, today at 5 p.m. for those of you who are doing the YSI program, Errol is going to be taking us through a review on chapter 3 of the Yoga Sutra. So 5 p.m. Arizona time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Have a
Thanks,
great,
Juan.
great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. See you later.